Hello everyone, we are here at the CineMilled garage with our full line of vehicle rigging products. Just getting ready to start rigging the CineMilled race car because we're getting ready to do a shoot at the racetrack pretty soon. And so we're going to do a little video on rigging up the car and how to use our different products. But right now I want to talk to you about our Houdini Speedrail clamp. Speedrail. So, Speedrail is something that you've probably been around of a lot if you've been on a movie set. And it's the way most grips will rig anything. And of course, now that we have Ronins and we have suspension arms, we are sort of coming in contact with a little bit of rigging ourselves as cameramen. And so I started to develop our CineMilled action arm and I started to rig it to some of our vehicles. And what I started to happen is I started to become very frustrated with the Speedrail clamps that were out in the market. Namely, the most important thing that I was getting frustrated with was play. So once I would set an angle, a lot of the swiveling sort of Speedrail clamps that are out there, they have a bolt that runs through them. And once you tighten it, it feels like, it's solid. But if you then grab, there's a lot of leverage at play with Speedrail, you'll notice that it'll actually like shift by a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch depending on the brand of the clamp. And when you start to build a structure, all that little play starts to add up, and it was frustrating me quite a bit. So what I wanted to come up with was a Speedrail clamp system that had stainless steel pins that you could move and reposition into certain positions that would have zero play. And so that's what we came up with the Houdini clamp. So, I kind of called it the Houdini clamp because it's kind of impossible to get out of or move. There's no play in the system. And actually, originally I'm from Brazil, and in Brazil we call cheeseboroughs handcuffs. And so handcuffs, reminded me of Houdini. And here we are, in the fact that these are super strong. I think even he would have a hard time getting out of these. And so what we did was, of course, we're going to have these available in 1.25 inch speed rail and 1.5 inch initially. Maybe we'll make other sizes going forward. We're also making shims to go down from 1.5 inch to 1.25 inch. But so what we have going on here is, in the clamp itself, it's a double-sided clamp, and the reason it's not the fastest, as opposed to like a clamshell style, which you might be familiar with. It's not the fastest, but you can apply the most amount of pressure. The other thing that frustrated me with these other clamps is they sort of made and designed the clamp for a variety of different size speed rail. So what ends up happening is the clamp only applies pressure like on a very small portion of the speed rail. And so what that can do is that can actually like squeeze the speed rail and ovalize it, maybe if you tighten a lot. But most importantly, there just isn't a lot of contact surface on the speed rail. And so what we did here, it's almost a 360-degree contacting surface on the speed rail, which grips the speed rail really strongly. So most of the time, a lot of Speedrail clamps, especially like the cast ones, they'll have a set screw, and that digs into the speed rail, and that's what secures it in place and prevents it from slipping. So that's it's a good system. It does mar up the speed rail, and eventually you have to throw it away. The most important aspect of our double-sided clamp, though, is that it applies a lot of pressure. But when you're using our double-sided clamp, here's one of our grenades. What you want to be careful of is you don't want to tighten one side and leave it uneven. So you just kind of want to tighten one side a little bit and then tighten the other and have an equal spacing on both sides. If it's unequal, it's not the end of the world. Nothing's going to break. But if you're going to be applying a lot of torque to these bolts because you're using it in a situation where it's critical, then you're going to want to pull it down evenly. One of the other features of our Houdini clamps is this access hole at the top right here. So the access hole very simply put, is so that you can take an Allen tool and tighten the center Allen bolt that attaches the two sides of the Houdini together. So that makes it so that you don't have to take the top off to get the wrench in there, right? At any point, you can put the wrench in there and tighten the Houdini clamp. So, once I put the hole in there, I realized, if we're putting that hole in there, you might as well thread it, and then we can put a set screw on there as kind of like a safety. So if tightening the Speedrail wasn't enough, you can then put a 3/8 16 set screw in there, and that we will sell, and you can then add an additional safety bite into the Speedrail. But so let's talk about the main aspect right here, which is the way the two sides of the clamp interact with each other. So what we have is we have 4 hardened stainless steel pins that we machine and we press into the 1/2 of the male side of the Houdini clamp. And so what happens is we have a female side of the Houdini clamp, which has a number of holes. And basically this allows you to align the two halves so that they're 90 degrees apart. So you can do a 90-degree intersection of your Speedrail with 0 play. Now this was really important to me, like I stated earlier, and this is the main aspect. There is no play. Once you have the angle that you want, you put your 3/8 screw in there, you take your Allen wrench and you tighten that up. But so you can do 90-degree increments, and then you can also do 45s. Boom. So as you can see there, it's cocked over to 45, and so you could do 45 instead of 45, 45, 45. So the other interesting thing about the Houdini clamp is you can use the male side on our hitch mount, because our 2-inch receiver hitch Speedrail hitch mount uses the male side of the Houdini clamp. So if you need to run another piece of Speedrail off of your hitch and you bought a bunch of Houdini clamps, you can take them apart, use the male side on the hitch. So that's really cool and gives you one more use for the male side of the Houdini clamp. And then the female side of the Houdini clamp is really special also because we also added a number of rigging holes to it, right? So what you can do is you can put this on a piece of Speedrail, right, like we have here, and then maybe mount like the Ronin-2 battery module to it. You can mount, run a monitor arm or a rigging arm off of it and rig something off of a piece of Speedrail. You can put a baby pin on here, right, if you need a baby pin off of a piece of Speedrail. And so there's just a number of things you can do. We also added rigging points to the side of the clamp. So for whatever reason you need to put a baby pin coming off of it, you can do that. You can even do a baby pin off of the 3/8 hole on the back side right here. And that serves to secure the Speedrail, and it also gives you a mounting point so that you can mount a gobo head or whatever to it. But yeah, so, and then if you flip it over, on the other side we have a 3/8 mounting points. So there you go. So we have 3/8 mounting points on one side, and then we have 1/4-20 mounting points on the other side. And then on the base of it, we have both 1 inch apart where we can, 2 inches apart in the case of these ones that are farther apart. And so that allows you to use the female side of the Houdini clamp to sort of essentially mount whatever you want to Speedrail. And so what we did here in this case is we needed to rig our GH5 camera off of Speedrail for this car mount that we're about to do. And so I took one of our female Houdini clamps and I threaded it into my ball head. So as you can see here, I can now have an adjustable mount for the camera that I'm then going to mount on a piece of Speedrail. And it provides a super secure, I could actually mount this ball mount in different positions on this female side of the Houdini clamp. So I try to come up with the most versatile Speedrail clamp you've ever used, and also the most strong and secure if you're using it in a sort of 45-degree increment, which of course when you're building structures, you're frequently going in 45-degree increments. And so that's kind of a quick overview of the Houdini clamp and the two halves of it. You got the male side and the female side. Once again, you can use the male side in the hitch by itself. You can use the female side in any number of different ways. We are going to make them available as like a cheeseborough, as the two halves, as like the handcuffs, like I said. Or you can buy each half separately, because honestly, the female side I'm using so that I can rig all sorts of different things to Speedrail. You know, you can, since it's a cheese bottom, you could then take it and rig Speedrail to any number of things. You know, one of the things you could do is you can take one of our, let's see here, one of the suction cups, and you can bolt that straight to the top of the suction cup, and you can run horizontal Speedrail right off of the suction cup. So without having to do a 90-degree angle, like if this suction cup is mounted on the side of the car like we're going to do in a little bit, and I need Speedrail to go vertically off the suction cup when the suction cup is also mounted vertically, I can just take the half of the Houdini clamp and bolt it right to the suction cup, and we can do Speedrail right off of the suction cup. And so, yeah, so, you know, I'm really excited about these Houdini clamps because I've been working a lot rigging cars lately, because we developed the action arm, the CineMilled action arm, and I've just been really frustrated with the Speedrail clamps out there. And I think we kind of came up with a very versatile Speedrail clamp that's going to be kind of hopefully the last clamp I have to buy and work with. And so here we have it. We have it rigged up to our 10-inch suction cup, and we got the modular Speedrail starter right here with a piece of Speedrail, and then right here we're ready to start creating our structure and going off and coming up with our rigging that we'll be doing. And this is where we use our Houdini, our fixed Houdini clamps. And so as you can see here, they come apart. There's a female side and a male side. The female side we use down on here and use the threads to go into the base plate of the suction cup. But in this case, we're going to use it as a cheeseborough, or as some people call them, handcuffs, as we say in Brazil, actually. And so what we're going to do is you can select a different number of angles right there. And in this case, obviously, we're using a full 90-degree angle. And that's what we did. We left the clamps here a little loose, and we can start to slide our Speedrail tube through. There we go. And we're going to want to tighten each side evenly. And once again, our Houdini clamps, they follow the curvature of the tube very closely, so they apply a nice even pressure, which gives the clamp much more holding power than a traditional clamshell style Speedrail clamp, because those clamps are made to fit a multitude of tube sizes, and we know that most of the time we're going to be using the 1.25" size. But the one last thing I want to talk about is our access hole here that we have for the clamp. As an additional safety measure that, you know, it's not really required, but if you want to take the time to do this, you know, it's certainly not going to hurt anything. We do have an optional set screw that you can use. And so this is very familiar to you, a lot of you that use the Hollander fittings. That's actually the main securing method of the Hollander fittings. In our clamp, it's just a backup. It's just, you know, you being paranoid, essentially. The reason why, you know, because our clamp has the full contact point, these aren't really necessary because our clamp applies a lot more pressure to the tube. The other reason why you may not want to use these is if you're using our CineMilled black anodized tubing. You'll notice that when you use the set screws, they dig into the tubing, and soon this will start looking like it has chicken pox. And so, if you have nice black tubing and you don't really want to ruin it, I would say this is not really necessary. But if you want to just be ultra cautious, you could run the safety set screw, but it's not necessary. I hope you enjoyed that detailed look and got a much better insight in all the different ways you can use our vehicle rigging products. They all have lots of different ways they interact with each other, and different, we try to make them smart and a little bit smarter than all the other things out there. As you can see here, we're fully rigged up and ready to go shoot on the racetrack. Part of the reason why I look to come up with better versions of things I'm using is because I'm out there shooting, and I cannot wait to get this car out there on the racetrack, get our action arm mounted up on the CineMilled truck, and go chase this down and get some cool footage. And as you can see here, we use the 6-inch suction cup, the 4.5, the 10-inch, both of the Houdini Speedrail clamps, and and we're even working on a lot of other things to completely cover all the bases when it comes to rigging cameras on a vehicle, rigging gimbals onto vehicles, and you name it. We got the isolation mount coming out, we got the action arm, so it's not just vehicle rigging. We got a couple of really cool mounts on the way as well. So if you want to see more, of course, follow or like, comment, subscribe, click on the little bell icon to get notified when we have new videos coming up on our YouTube channel. Absolutely check us out and like us on Facebook. There's a couple of groups that we participate in and we administer on Facebook. One of them is the Vehicle Rigging and Camera Car group, and it's a very big group, lots of grips in there. And if you buy some of our products and you start to do your own rig on your vehicle or on your client's vehicle, take pictures, post on there, share. People give you tips like, oh, you should probably run that extra tube, you should brace it like this, you did a good job, all that sort of stuff. You can search through and see all the different rigs other people are doing. So that Facebook group is really great. And of course, we got the CineMilled user group. So if you have specific questions about our products, everybody on there are CineMilled customers, and they can help you out. They've probably encountered the same problem or challenge that you're facing. But yeah, so I'm really excited to get this thing going, and I hope you are too. I hope you're getting ready to, fill your shopping cart full of these clamps and all of our suction cups, because as you can see, it takes multiple. You need a couple of each at least, and when it comes to the Speedrail clamps, you need quite a few. But you're going to buy this once in your career, and you're going to be, this stuff doesn't wear out. So you're going to be using these for the next 20, 30 years until you don't want to see cameras in front of you anymore. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching this video and for following us, and I'll see you on set.